Welcome to Doctrine and Devotion. It's a podcast. You know what? It's the last podcast you need to listen to before the new year begins. Right? Doctrine and Devotion.
Yeah.
It's a podcast that explores Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective without all the hate, the anger, the bitterness. And yeah, so like I'm a pastor.
Yeah.
At Redeemer Fellowship. My name is Joe Thorne. I'm the lead pastor.
Yeah.
Which means
Grand Poopa.
that means I preach the most. Jimmy.
Executive pastor at Redeemer Fellowship.
Which means
Communications.
you know what's going to happen next
Organization.
year. You know what's going to happen next year with the executive pastor.
Oh, what's happening?
Oh, he's going to be preaching more.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Ooh, Jimmy and I've been mapping it out, looking at the book of Revelation.
Oh, yeah. A great one for me to jump in on.
Yeah. Hey, man, you got the book of Revelation, man. Come on, it's going to be fun. I can't wait. And you know what? I'm not an optimist, but because I felt this way. I felt this way at the beginning of 2020. I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Nice.
I feel pretty good. You know, moving into the next year. I mean, you know, kids going back to school. What about you? What are you going to be doing?
You know, just picking up the pieces, I think.
Yeah.
The 2020.
Like-
Still picking them up.
Well, you know, it's funny because you might look at like people like Jimmy and I and think, man, just they have it all together.
Yeah.
They just
Firing
they,
on all cylinders.
You know, and I have 10 cylinder. I'm a 10 cylinder.
Mm.
I'm not. No, I'm like a 2-stroke motorbike for the neighborhood.
A Vespa.
I'm a busted down Vespa is what I am. So Jimmy and I were just sitting here talking, and we thought, why don't we talk about the plans that we've been making for the next year? You know, like the plans, because it's not just for the next year. We've actually begun to implement these things and talk through them, but we want to talk about the changes that we need to make now leading to this next year, so that we actually make 2021 better than 2020 was, especially in our areas of failure.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you always have to be kind of thinking through these things. You got to always be kind of working through it and taking like the self-evaluation.
Yeah.
And kind of figure out, okay, what is it that went well?
Right.
What didn't go so well? And you know what are those things that we can tweak?
Change.
It's time to change. Oh,
Yeah.
some people are changing more than others.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? See, now if you know that reference, yeah, you. Range. That's some Brady tunes right there.
Na 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 na.
Sha-na-na-na-na. Yeah, that's what we're doing for 2021.
We're gonna change.
It's time to change. This is our theme song.
What?
This is like gonna be our theme song. Oh, you know who that is? It's
Yeah.
Greg Brady right there.
He's changing.
Oh, who is that?
I didn't really watch the Brady Bunch.
Oh, you didn't watch the. Oh, you're too young.
No, yeah.
Here comes Peter. Ready?
Okay, here we go.
All right. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about changing and the changes that we want to make in the new year. Jimmy, you want to go first? You want to list one of the things that you're looking to improve or change or tweak?
Yeah. I think we should, why don't we talk about it in different spheres, right?
Okay.
We could, kind of go back and forth. Why don't we first talk about what people typically focus on? And I think they typically focus on physical.
Yeah.
Should we talk about that first?
You need to lose. Well, you know what my sister told me yesterday?
What's that? Oh, yeah, I felt like you were about to direct that at me. But
No. Yesterday it was Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
So my sister's there, Michelle. And if you guys have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know Michelle, my sister Michelle, and my people in my family, we're not afraid to just say stuff. No filter.
It don't matter whether
Yeah.
it's like at Christmas dinner or members meeting
Or in the middle of a sermon. Or a conference.
Or a conference.
My sister will start talking. So I choke on something that I'm drinking and I can't breathe. So I go to the bathroom just to die without being embarrassed. Okay. So if I'm going to die, let me die in the bathroom. Nobody can see me. So I finally get it together. I can breathe. I come back out and everybody's like, yeah, you're choking. I'm like, yeah. And we were talking about how my mom used to choke and my sister's like, yeah, maybe if you lost some weight, that help. But because it's one of the most recognizable things about us, right? Like, oh, I've gained some weight. I need to lose some weight.
Especially the COVID, COVID 25 that people put on.
A lot of people have gained. I did, but that's not because of COVID.
I feel like I'm going the opposite track. I think I need to gain more. I'm looking like I'm kind of dwindling down a bit. Like my round shape now has some like soft spots to it. It needs to get like that.
It's like a balloon. You want like a balloon?
Correct. It feels a little deflated.
Okay.
So but yeah, for a lot of people, ourselves included, needing to take care of ourselves physically, and that first and foremost, I mean that comes down to weight, right? But there's also things like sleep.
Yep.
Getting more rest, not staying up so late. For some people, that might even include not just slowing down on snacking, but maybe slowing down on, because it's been easy during COVID, especially people working at home, where 5 o'clock turns into like 1.
Yeah. So you're talking about drinking.
I'm talking about drinking. You know what I'm talking about.
Liquor stores have made a lot of money this year.
They had a banner year.
So I mean, if a lot of people are starting to think about their physical health, you really should be thinking about your health holistically, right? Mental, physical. I think what you said, sleep is really good, but it's not like, hey, listen, I have a goal of getting, ripped or whatever. And that's a good goal for some people that are very physically inclined. But in general, there's a lot of changes that we could do. But what about you? Like, what is something that you are thinking like about in this? Is this an area, or is this just something like you think everybody's thinking about it and you're going a different way? No,
it's definitely an area for myself. And, putting myself out there, I know I've talked about this in the past. So, let's see how things turn around in June. But getting back to working out, getting back to a better sleep schedule.
Yeah.
And even like you talk about like they're mentally, right? Because that's all part of that too, is feeding myself with more than just The Office. You know what I mean?
You mean the show?
The show, yeah. Feeding myself with more than just the show, The Office. But reading more, just taking more time to be kind of quiet and reflective on my day and what state I'm in.
Yeah, and I think on that note, yes, my physical, mental health, I want to be a healthy person for my family, and I know that my family is they get concerned for me, and like, when are you going to start like running, or when are you going to start doing something? They'll bring it up very nicely, but it's because they're concerned.
Yeah.
And
not like Michelle.
No,
probably lose some weight.
She's concerned, but she's just like, she's no bedside manner. She's like, you fat. I'm like, yeah, I know. And this shirt is a little small, but it's my favorite shirt. So
I don't care if the bottom is showing.
Yeah, I don't care if the bottom of my belly is peeking out. So yeah, I think that's the physical. I mean, to be honest, it's not like the thing that I'm interested in changing this year. But it is a part of the thing that I want to see change. And maybe that's another thing, is because I think, I don't know, it's in one sense, like if you try to change everything, nothing's like, it's all going to fall apart. Yeah. But in another sense, if you just focus on one thing and you don't see how it's connected to other parts, you're going to fail in that one thing. You gotta see how a lot of these areas of life are interconnected.
Well, yeah, think about it. I mean, let's again focus back on the physical, right? As you work out, as you're losing weight, I mean, you're feeling and you're getting rest, right? You're feeling more refreshed. You're feeling more confident, and you probably are going to have a better mental state. But I'm kind of leaning into, I think there is like a better emotional state.
Yeah. Right.
Just that confidence level, not like a boasting sort of a thing, but you do feel better about yourself, right?
And it's like, okay, if I want, if maybe your main goal is like, I need to get physically healthy because my blood pressure is high and I don't want to die and all that, right? So, okay, I'm going to work out every day and I'm going to eat better. Well, that's not going to happen if you aren't getting enough sleep, because you're not going to have the energy to do it. And you're not going to be able to get enough sleep if you're not getting your work done. So you have to get your work done. It's like, it's all connected.
It's all connected in that regard. Yeah.
I think one of the big ones, so we're talking what, like sort of our physical,
mental, emotional.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a part of it for me, is that, as we look at the spiritual health, I know that a lot of us have felt maybe somewhat spiritually cold or lethargic or discouraged. I know a lot of people have felt that. And, I've definitely experienced some of that this year. And so I've begun to make some changes in the way that I approach my morning disciplines and habits.
Okay.
And for me, it's like the difference isn't so much like, oh, I'm going to read the Bible and I'm going to pray. Like that's going to be the same thing, but actually the time and the place are different now. So and that's a lot of the changes that I've been trying to make are focused on the when and the where. And so like now my devotional times are happening in this library area we have in our home that Jen and her sister recently redid.
Wow. Your library?
It's a library.
Wow. Mm-hmm. For all the things you say about me, I don't have a library in my house.
You don't read. Yeah. No, nobody in your family reads.
First of all, we do read. It's Calvin and Hobbes. But
my kids go to classical Christian school. They read. They read Latin. They read the classics.
Oh, yeah, they'll come to me. Go back, Daddy, I need help declining. I'm like, all right, you know what, bro, you need to go ask Google.
I decline you.
I decline to help you decline. You need to go and go ask Google how this works.
But no, it's so sometimes for me, like I just need to shore up something that I'm doing and do it in a different way. That's a part of it. What's the biggest change? Like is there one big one or is there like a bunch of little ones? Because a bunch of little ones make up like some significant changes.
Personally, for me, it's a lot of little ones. I mean, the physical is a big one, right?
Sure. It's hard.
That was a hard, right?
Yeah.
But it is like as I look back and so one of the things that Michelle and I do, and we do it a couple times a year, but always at the end of the year, and then typically middle of the year when we go off for our anniversary. We'll spend time kind of taking stock and saying, okay, where are we as a family? Yep. Where are we as a couple? And where do we are we where we should be or want to be? And where is it that we see that, this is what's going to glorify God.
Yep.
Right. And it's a lot of little things.
That's a big one though. I mean, it's not like if I don't do this now, we're going to die, but it's significant, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a complicated thing to do.
No.
Like Jen and I are doing that's an exact thing. There have been some really good leaders, or there have been some leaders out there that made some really good points about this, that saying like schedule time with your wife to talk through issues, right?
Yeah.
So you can schedule time for movies, or for laser tag, like Jimmy and his wife do, or whatever, but schedule time to talk, like to break out your calendars. I like to go through like, hey, what's going on this week? And then what's going on with us? Jen and I have been doing the same thing. We've been doing it on Saturday afternoons.
Yeah. I do think it's a trait of a healthy marriage,
but we haven't been doing it. Like we have, like this year, we definitely haven't been doing it this year. And so that's something that we've started. And at the end of this year, and it's also like it's something we want to see run through this next year. Yeah.
So for us, I mean, like I said, it's a lot of little things because, as far as Michelle and I go, like, that's going really, really well. And, Joe and I have talked off air because we talk about things that are going on in our lives and in our hearts and in our marriages and in our homes. And so one of the things I've been very blessed with, right, has been able to look and say, things are going well for Michelle and I. It wasn't always the same when we first got married. The first 3 years was horrible. And then she finally, listened to me and understood that my way is the right way and to just go along with it and never ask questions. So you're just nodding, but you're not hearing me because this is a great joke right there. Dang it. So Michelle.
So you're experiencing what I experienced. Oh, you are right now experiencing.
That's something you need to change right there is to be present in the moment.
Okay, I'll be present in the moment.
No, the first 3 years was horrible. But by God's grace, like the last couple years has been fantastic. Yeah. It's been really good. But there are still areas that we need to work on together. And I need to work on to be a better husband and a better father. And so that's definitely something.
So what can you share an area, like as a husband or a father, like this is an area where I want to improve. Hey guys, Pastor Joe here. Now, if you're a listener of the podcast, you know how much Jimmy and I love Bible study tools and resources. Anything that helps us to unpack and understand and apply the Word of God. And throughout my life, I have benefited from a couple of very good study Bibles, which is why we are really excited that Doctrine and Devotion is sponsored by InterVarsity Press and the Bible Speaks Today Study Bible. This new study Bible takes the highlights of the popular and beloved 55-volume commentary series, The Bible Speaks Today, and puts it into one study Bible with commentary from popular English pastor theologians and edited by John Stott and Alec Motyer. This is a study Bible you should definitely pick up. Now, IVP is offering a special deal just for the listeners of Doctrine and Devotion. If you go to IVP's website, that's ivpress.com, and use the code Bible30, all one word, you'll get 30% off and free shipping. So that's IVPress, IVPRESS.com, and use the code BIBLE30. You'll get 30% off and free shipping of the Bible Speaks Today Study Bible.
So I think I want to improve. I want to be a better shepherd in the home, right? Mm-hmm. So, we'll do studies, or we'll do like devotions, but they feel, at least to me, I feel like it's kind of like going through the motion of it, just kind of going through it. There's not much depth. And I'm not talking about like we need to have this big, massive conversation, but it almost feels like I'm overseeing it, not directing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
And so I don't want to be passive in that, right? Like I handle the role as overseer, but not necessarily as directing like the path and direction that we're going, as it pertains to our scripture reading and our worship at home, right? And then even for Michelle and I, looking for those opportunities for us to be discussing more what God's been putting on our hearts as it pertains to scripture. I mean, I'll try to do things throughout the week of sending her text and just saying, hey, love you, thinking of you, was reading this. I hope it's an encouragement to you. What do you, but there needs to be a bit more of I don't know, it's been more grassroots. It needs to be a bit more intentional for us. That's what I've been feeling in that.
I think most of the, maybe this is an overstatement, but I think most of the problems in our lives where we sense like, oh, wow, I need to do better here, would largely be helped, if not resolved, if we had a plan and we're disciplined about it.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily easy, but sometimes it is rather simple. Mm-hmm. I think if I were to look at what I need to change and how I want to improve as a husband and a father this year, this coming year, in one sense, because I was so tired, like everybody, I was just weary this year, and that's not an excuse. But I certainly let my weariness sort of dictate the pace at which, or the level of energy that I gave to certain aspects of family life. And so, like, what I really want to do is I want to make sure that there is concentrated, intentional time with my kids, whether that's, just hanging out and having fun or having those spiritual conversations. But what I recognize is that I was almost just sleepwalking through it, I think. So, time with the kids that is fun. And it's like, I know we definitely need a lot of that. And then just time with Jen to find out the best ways to actually minister to her and encourage her.
Yeah.
Because she's such a strong and independent person.
Yep.
It's almost like, well, she's fine.
I hear that all the time about Michelle. It's like, man, like you've got a wife that, it sounds bad saying, it's like, you could be there or not, and like,
they,
you know what I mean?
They don't need us what would almost be a fair statement, right?
Yeah. Like, last night, we're talking, I'm like, oh, you don't want to go smoke a cigar in the garage. And she's like, yeah, go. I'm like, but I feel bad. We're kind of like, I want to hang out with you and I feel bad leaving you. She's like, I feel like we spent an appropriate amount of time together as is. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
But they still need, even though they're independent and strong and highly capable, even if, Jen shouldn't make custard pies, they do need attention, affection, interest. They need encouragement. They need help.
Yeah.
Just because somebody doesn't look like they need a good word doesn't mean that they don't need a good word. And so I'm working on figuring out like the best ways to actually encourage Jen, because everybody's encouraged differently. And I know Jen really well. We've been married 24 years, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but people change over time. And I've seen my wife change, and she's seen me change. And so, like, now, do I need to adapt? Like, what are some better ways to encourage her? That's something I'm thinking of.
No, and so, like, along those lines, for me, I've been thinking through that as well. And so, like, you and I have talked, we're revamping some of the things, like, when we get together.
Yep.
And part of that's to help with my kids and help my wife, to love and care for her. I'm revamping my mornings, which all that plays into as we're talking about, physical, emotional, and then as I was talking about more directing, spiritual stuff, our spiritual devotions, if I just changed my mornings and to where I'm present and then like take the kids to school, that part of the morning, there's things there that I know that can change, that's going to encourage my wife and edify my children.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, the idea of the schedule is critical. And
now you've been changing things up on that. If you don't mind, not to put you on the spot.
Well, it's only been 3 weeks and it could all fall apart tomorrow, but
but it's been really encouraging and helpful. And I think it's really good to celebrate that.
Yeah. And I've dI'm this in the past where I'm going to put together a schedule, my ideal schedule for the week. And for some reason I can put it on paper, and then I've gotten through a couple of weeks and it falls apart,
which happens to
a lot of people. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. 90% of people.
So, but this time it's working better than it ever has. And
I can see the difference.
And I'm not even, I'm doing, like, Jimmy is better at this sort of stuff than I am. You're really good at kind of working you put your schedule together and you work that schedule. And I can put a schedule together and something happens and I kind of lose my way. So I've been able to put this together Monday through Friday, and it's really helping me. I'm actually finding it exciting because I'm getting things done. And I guess part of it has been figuring out that I can get more done in these concentrated blocks of time than I thought, if I'm doing it at the right place and at the right time. So that's been a big help. The book I recommended earlier, Deep Work, has been helpful in that. And it's not it doesn't fix anything. It just kind of helps to reorient. But yeah, so I've got basically one calendar app that I use that just tells me what area I'm supposed to be working in at a given time of the day. And then I go to my other calendar app that has everything that I need to actually do. And I feel really good. So you talk about mental health. At the end of these days, it's got everything in it. It's got family time. It's got dinner. It's got everything that it's the whole day until 10 o'clock. And so I feel really good at the end of the day, even if I don't pull it off perfectly, which many days I haven't, but I still feel really good about what I got done. And part of the thing that I've finally listened to is that you put your schedule together and you work in your schedule, but you need to work on it. Like, I'm going to need to tweak it maybe in a month. I have to tweak it, move some pieces around, and that's okay. So, but yeah, I've also got people that know about that are holding me accountable. So honestly, the big thing for me, the biggest thing that I'm changing is how I work so that I can get more done and get healthier. So like in all these things that I want to work on, like kids, obviously like some attitudinal issues, like with complaining. I gotta tell you a story.
Oh, let's hear it.
Are we too long? We're probably too long.
No, we're good.
I
want to hear. Oh, it's there. Go.
It's embarrassing. Go. This is how bad I am.
Oh, let's hear it.
This is really
no. We're good.
Okay,
we're good.
So
that's all the time we have. No,
I was going. I would be relieved if I don't share this. We can just live.
Nope.
We can just
go ahead.
All right. So attitudinally, sometimes I'm like my sister.
Oh, okay.
So I was trying to park. I was parking in the same spot that I always park outside of this local store, right?
Okay,
And-
Binny's.
Yes. So I was
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I was
amazing.
going to Benny's Beverage Depot. And so when I go to Benny's, I park facing the store, the last one or two over. There's two spaces, and then there's a handicap space. So it's to the right. So far right, you can park there. The next one over on your left, you can park. And then the third one is a handicap spot. So I'm trying to park into that last spot because it's open. But the guy on my left in that second spot is parked over the yellow line. So of course I'm kind of like, well, that's annoying, bro. Like, but then I look and I see like, well, he's older. So like, whatever. So I kind of squeeze in there. And when I open my car door, dude starts barking at me. He's barking at me. He's the dude that parked over the line. And I'm like, what? And he's like, that's not a parking spot. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, that's not a parking spot. This is a handicap spot. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I look up and I'm one store over. And so I'm actually trying to squeeze into the empty space of his handicap spot.
Wow.
And I'm like, I am so sorry. I thought I was in the right spot. I obviously am in the wrong spot. I'm a section over. I'm so sorry, but he won't stop. He won't stop barking.
So
I might have explained to him that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I might have explained to him that.
What did you?
You know, I essentially said, "Hey, man, you need to tell me that I've done this wrong. I appreciate that, but you don't need to tell me the way that you've told me." It's basically what I said in in a more confrontational way. I told him he didn't have to basically be a jerk about it. Don't have to be a jerk about it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Instead of just shutting my mouth and being like, yeah. So there are attitudinal changes as well. But all of this, for me, seems to come together in fixing the way. So it's not just a schedule. It's not just a calendar. It's the way I am working with a schedule and in a schedule. That's my big thing. That's probably my biggest thing. Yeah. What else? Anything else you can share?
Yeah, I was, when you're talking about schedules, so I think it's really important and kind of want to end on this because you're talking about work. Right. And making sure you're getting your work done. I think it's becoming really, it can become difficult as people are now doing more remote learning and remote working. And there's a blur, right? There's this blur between work and home.
Yeah.
And it's hard to shut off.
Yeah. It's
hard to shut off because, that ride home, that drive home is actually really good for you to disconnect from. You leave the office, you're done, you drive, and now you're home and you're present. But for a lot of people, that's going to be a struggle. And I think it's really important to set clear lines and boundaries so that you're not giving space that's meant for your family to your vocation.
Yeah.
Right. So when we were doing, I was working at home for a bit, not long, because it was bad.
You ain't about that life.
No, we were playing. Michelle and I were playing the game of why don't you do it this way, and we're both losing. And so I was like, 3 weeks in, I'm like, all right, here's your 1 week notice. I'm out. And she's like, good. You need to go. Go back to the office. I'm like, I'm done. No one's at the office. I could go work there by myself. I'm fine. Because it could bleed. It could bleed. So for those 3 weeks, I had to try to find like this routine, or even like, I guess what you want to call like an end of work routine, so that I would disconnect from that and move into I am home now.
Right.
I am home now, and I need to let that go and just be with my family and not pick up my laptop and resume emails or read over some contracts.
Yeah, routine and ritual are really important.
That's it. That's the word I was looking for. Ritual. Thank you.
Routine and ritual, and in that book, Deep Work, they get into that as well. But or Cal gets into it. But yeah, I mean, we know this in our lives. Like there are certain rituals that we do that help us in to either enjoy or to enjoy something or be productive. But I know that the working from home and the schooling from home is some people love it. They thrive in it, but it's a challenge, I think, for most people, like you said. So let's hold. We obviously do, trying to hold each other accountable, but in the encouraging way, right? In other words, like, you know what your friends need? They need an attaboy, or an attagirl. They don't just need to, hey, did you screw up today? Did you do what you're supposed to do? When you see them doing that thing, say, hey, man, you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're killing it because that excites, that motivates. And when they mess up, like, it's all right, man. You can get back on this. Let's keep going. So be an encourager. Like look and see what your friends are trying to do, your family members are trying to do, and then cheer them on, because in my experience, like that produces a much greater benefits than just yelling at somebody from your handicap spot because somebody made a mistake, and then you wind up yelling at a handicapped person in their car, like, hey man, you don't have to be a jerk about it. I'm sorry. I said I was sorry, and then you're still yelling at me or whatever.
Well, we love to hear thoughts. You can follow us online on Instagram and Twitter at Doc and Devo, on Facebook /Doctrine Devotion. You can head to the website, drdevotion.com. They can contact us. You can sign up for the email blast. Hit up the store, jofostore.com, and grab some gear. Fresh pod every Monday and Thursday. Over the website, we got blog posts and video content. Later.